another brainstorming session, if I may say. The topic is incident response role play. Well, we are doing some role play. We delve into action and reaction of CEO, CFO, CIO, CISO, head IT, and OEMs during ransomware attack and actions to recover. To host this topic, we have Bala Ramanan, AVP Risk and Compliance Microland, and Manish Sehgal, CISO Cloud SEK. Could we request these gentlemen to come up on stage? And may I please humbly request everyone to get back on their seats. We are requesting everyone's presence. These are a few of the last sessions before we head towards gala dinner. So may I please request all of you to please come back to your seats. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we planned something, and keeping in mind the number of tables available, I'm just improvising on the fly.
I've got one more mic for you. This one is on. There's one more mic for you.
This is okay. So the role play is about a bank, okay? We have got some it's a bank which has got some 75,000 employees, okay, having some turnover of 10,000 crores, operating about 3,500 locations across India. Now, they are completely into O65. They've got a hybrid model, okay. I'm just giving you a brief so that you understand how the entire infra works. And they have got a CISO, InfoSec team, typical banking structure, right? And they've got the InfoSec IT team, the technology team, the applications, retail banking, that's a business, and all of them. So having said this, you can see here, so actually we planned certain teams and everything, but due to lack of the participation here, I'm just putting it in a different play. So once the bank is set up, operating, and everything happening, the message comes to the CISO, okay? Saying that, just imagine this, that the CISO comes to the office, retail banking is a primary business source of income, and once the office starts, maybe after an hour or two, the CISO gets a message that there is a ransomware message pop up in couple of monitors, a couple of endpoints in the branches. So, as a CISO, right, what are they supposed to do? Any thoughts? I'm just walking up to anyone. I'm feeling free to choose anyone. Yeah. What would you do?
See, as a CISO, you should first disconnect from the internet. You don't know the impact. You have seen some real-life examples saying that ransomware note has been present on your systems. So to do the analysis, you might take time. To revert on the action plan also, you will need to take time. So parallelly, first, isolate everything, prepare a plan, inform management, and the next steps will follow.
I have a small challenge in that, because people say so beautifully, identify it, isolate it, and, disconnect the systems. Do you think it's so easy, the way you said it as a CISO of a bank, doing this in the next 10 minutes? We have to do it.
Yes, that's why you have to be ready with your cyber response plan, incident response plan, which you can say it.
That's exactly why we are going to discuss this little bit.
Yes, you need to have that.
I know.
And in that, if you do not prepare a kill switch, then you will take forever time to shut down or do the things.
Beautiful. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to share? What would you do? You just walk up to the office, 2 hours, somebody reports to you, then what happens?
I think we should find out the preliminary information from the SOC.
Okay.
What has happened, any triggers.
Super.
And based on that information, you initiate your further action. Because suppose it could be suppose you get a pointer where you see that maybe 10 guys who are working remotely, they are infected.
Okay.
Okay. So you know that probably remote somebody is infected. If you have some triggers, okay, from the SOC, and then you say probably you can cut off VPN. One action could be.
Just a pause here. I will give you a moment of reality here. How many of you here actually think SOC adds value to the operations? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe about 30%. So you want to take a 30% probability bet on the input that you will take actions only if the SOC team is going to tell you?
No, so based on the SOC will have, if SOC has sub input, okay? Because there are a lot of triggers are going to SOC.
Definitely.
You have invested in SOC.
Definitely.
Yeah.
See, technology can have issues.
Yeah.
We understand that. But during such a crisis, right, you have a pop-up, ransomware attack. What would be your approach?
Because we need to assess the current scenario, what is happening, okay? It may take some time because you need to assess, then only you can initiate the right actions.
This is exactly what I wanted to put up, saying that the CISO discussion happens, right? Now, there are multiple functions. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So there are two scenarios here. If you are a mature organization or you're not a mature organization.
What would you do?
So if I have a CCMP in place and I have a call tree in place, I will see how I can recover from my cyber crisis management plan, the Bible there,
Okay.
with least disturbance, and I
Okay.
can take that call immediately.
Okay.
With the call tree in picture. I can invoke the senior management, do that.
Okay.
If it is not there, then it's a very tricky scenario.
Okay.
Then I will probably like to go by what Ambarish has said. So I will go to SOC, do some R&D, go into the forensics part of it and see what criticality is involved.
See, we know
coming
how
out of it.
banking systems operate. We have a mandate. It's no more a risk, it's a compliance.
Yeah.
RBI has got a mandate. So we need to define this process. We need to test it. We're already doing it.
No, if
In
you already
spite
have
of which,
if you have a CCMP and a call tree, then it's a straight simple thing. You can go by that.
the challenge is not that part.
Yeah.
The challenge, I am trying to shift the perspective. The challenge is we know the entire system is geared up to run, but somebody has to tell which direction. Right? Somebody has to tell which direction.
Could we?
Yeah? Can we pass on the mic to the lady, please?
Hi, so I just want to bring the scenario from what has happened. Like now you say that ransomware attack has happened.
Yeah.
So very first thing is what business is going to get affected?
Okay,
How much?
the retail banking business is getting affected.
Right, so how much, like which segment has got affected due to this? Which part of, like how many customers?
Your southern region retail banking business has got impacted.
Right.
And customers are roughly around, retail banking is end users, right? So
Right.
you've got lakhs and lakhs of customers are there.
Right. So now, when so many customers are affected, so how many days the business will not happen? That will also impact the entire organization.
I completely
That is
agree.
one part.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
My question is very simple.
Yeah.
This is something which you've already done.
Right.
You've already assessed.
Right.
I'm asking you, what will you do now? Because there's a ransomware message on the screen.
So next, then I will start. We will start the investigation. Like first, we know that how big the fire is, and based on that, we start the investigation, taking various minute steps, as we sir said, SOC. But that would be one of the steps. We need to add different monitoring scenarios. What are there? We need to analyze that where and how our system is working and from where the attacker must have come in. So that investigation would start definitely.
I just want to tell everyone that no answer is the best answer. Because every answer is a solution to some problem which may or may not have worked at some point in time. So we all know incident response, there are learnings. Every time we have a learning. Anybody else? Can we pass? Yeah.
So ideally, whatever these people say, those things has to be followed. Like
What would you do?
Correct. So, like, let's say suppose if it is about SOC triaging, or even if it's about isolating the network, or even if it is about assessing the business and all of that, we would have already done that prior as an assessment. Now what we will be doing is, we are going to execute those run books now, which will guide who has to do what, where, how, when, and those things.
In
So-
this particular case, whatever I've explained, when I said there was a message, ransomware message, which said that a couple of systems have been compromised, okay? Now the twist to the story is, by the time we were all debating, SOC say alert, aaya kya? Somebody else has actually looked into it or not. While we were looking into this, I've got an update. Your Active Directory has been compromised, okay? And half of your branches, ransomware messages are being popping up. Now, you're already on O365. Now, the biggest challenge is the attacker has already compromised your O365. So how will you collaborate? How will you send emails? Will you use Teams for collaboration? How will you communicate to your customers? Yeah, mic here, please.
Is anybody from Cygnus over here? Cygnus. Nobody. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that before and as part of your planning, you have catered for the scenario of having an alternate communication channel. So let me tell you how we've done it. I've heard about Cygnus today for the first time. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
But I've heard of other such similar agencies that offer these emergency communication channels or platforms. So we use like many others, we use the Microsoft suite of products. So we've used some other, Google Workspace to set up an alternate communication channel. But then that costs money. So we do it for a very small, tiny number of people, almost like a proof of concept. But in an emergency, it can be very rapidly scaled up. So that keeps the cost exceedingly low, but available in case of an
Brilliant
emergency.
strategy. But do you also know, sir, that suddenly when you start sending out mails from a domain, it comes under the category of newly formed domains, right? And it gets flagged off in your recipient side.
No, so we've sort of used a secondary domain, and we have sort of made our users at least
No,
aware.
if your concern is very good, I'm just saying my experience, that's it.
No, I didn't get that. Will you explain that?
So, just a second, I'll just answer it. So, the moment you have another domain, right, where you create that secondary domain for a small set of people, and when the primary domain goes down and becomes compromised, we fall back on the secondary domain. But that's the first time you're touching the secondary domain.
Correct.
Right? And you have to communicate. And when you send out mails to any other third parties, any other, say, suppose you send it to somebody else, supply chain, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Their security, email security system will flag it off as a mail from a domain which was formed or realized just within the last 30 days, and it will quarantine. Exactly. So that's another risk.
Absolutely.
How many people actually thought into it? I don't know. But this has happened to one of our customers. That's why I'm sharing those inputs.
And your point earlier that there is no real right answer, there's also a corollary to that it doesn't matter. I mean, it actually matters how deeply you think, because each level of thinking you'll find issues and there'll be further issues.
There will be issues. There will be issues. Absolutely agree on it. But to what extent are we supposed to think and we say, till here, let me take some action. Beyond this is my acceptable risk.
Correct.
Beyond this, as you rightly said, 90% of the time, project takes 90% of the time, the remaining 10% takes another 90% of the time.
Absolutely.
So we stop at 90 and that's it.
Yeah.
Baki, everything is acceptable risk. But did we communicate, identify and communicate is the issue.
Absolutely.
If we have not tabled it, if there's no clarity on that, then there's going to be an issue.
Yeah. And then I go further and say, whenever you do a tabletop exercise, if that tabletop exercise does not throw up issues, it's a waste of time.
And you know what? You ask the same question to this entire audience. Before even they could answer, I will tell you, they have been doing this tabletop exercise for so many years, and every time they did not face any issues.
Then it's a waste of time.
No, I'll tell you why. Because they are using the same team is conducting it, and the same participants are there. So it becomes a...
Yeah, but then it
You
becomes
have to change the people.
it becomes a checkbox exercise.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
for that,
Exactly.
compliance is something that you do for somebody else. Security is what you do for yourself.
Exactly. That is a different ball. We'll talk about that. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. So every organization will have another mechanism to reach out their employees. Like HR have a SMS systems. Now WhatsApp being leveraged by most of the organizations to communicate with their employees also in that. We can leverage that. SMS is the best way to do it.
But the question is, do you have all those people numbers?
Yes, definitely. That's why I said that HR uses this one.
Uses
if
this.
If the organization is not using it, then it's a...
In all likelihood, the SMS platform would have been AD integrated to the domain integrated. Possibly. Why? Because they will say InfoSec
Or
team
you
said
can
this.
take the third-party service also. There are
Possible.
third-party services, you don't need to integrate with your
Completely
everything.
possible. I'm only provoking your thinking there. That's all.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm saying that. Whatever mechanism which should use it, it should be other than the email platform, which may be a compromise in this scenario.
Yeah. So here, actual game was to stop the role play there, and we wanted to say what could have been little different, what could have been better. So we didn't want to come and tell you that, boss, NIST standard is there, please follow NIST framework. We don't want to come and tell you that, please follow ISO 27000 framework. We don't want to come and tell you, follow this framework, that framework, or whatever it is. All that we wanted to tell you is, basis our experience, whatever we have gone through, so many incidents, right? And what we have learned, we have burnt our fingers, we have seen, and to a best of our knowledge, whatever we thought could be a potential certain buckets and certain points which anybody could focus upon, that would be really helpful. I wanted to make it simple. So this is what we wanted to present. So as Vikram rightly said, there's a preparation phase. Preparation of incident response. Critical assets, everybody understands that. But what we don't understand is we only identify vulnerabilities. We don't identify the threat vectors through which the assets can be compromised. It is not about vulnerabilities. I may have a house. The house has got a door. The door is a means for someone to come inside my house, is a threat vector. The door is not strong enough, is a vulnerability. You are able to make out the difference. So what we are focusing is that the door is not strong enough. But the actual reason is anybody can come through the door. We don't ask what if the door is not there, what can happen. We only ask what if the door breaks. You see the difference there. You see the correlation there. So that is one issue which we found out. Have an IR plan which is very easy to say from this side of the table, but actually walking through a whole 9 yards, it becomes a tough one. But why we have generalized it? Because it differs from industry to industry, within the bank, within the culture, the way, the architecture, everything depends on so many factors. Establish communication strategy, as you rightly said. What is your alternative? This is my primary. What is my secondary? We assume. If you're assuming something, how many of you are actually captured your assumptions in the IR plan? We don't. We don't even think. And that's one of the learnings what we had. If somebody has actually assumed something that this will work in this way, put that as an assumption. In some places, it is a single point of failure. We know that, capture that, so that we know that there are certain things, so that it gets documented, and anybody who picks up the document will know that this is the case. Most important thing, build muscle memory. I don't know how many of you, I shouldn't ask this, how many of you have had ligament tears? So, fracture is far better because bone will set. But ligament tear is the most painful thing. Okay? I'm sure most of you will remember when they had this incident and everything. So, why am I calling it as muscle memory is that just imagine that, I play volleyball and I've torn my ligament on my ankle. Now, a new ligament has to develop, whereas my rest of my ligament has already crossed 12th standard and maybe graduation. The new ligament is just crawling and getting into the nursery, which means the muscle memory is not there. So how do you build this muscle memory into the system? Like how we said we will test it, but test, are we doing a check in the box activity, or are we actually looking into the flavors of variations there and what could actually affect the effectiveness of the testing? Build partner ecosystem. Whom are we dependent upon? Microsoft, example, Microsoft or Cisco or Palo Alto, whoever it is. Have we spoken with them? Did we ask them, what is the emergency number if I have to reach out to? How much time will you respond to? They will simply say, today, when you call up the TAC team, they will assign the priority. You don't get to assign the priority of your ticket. Have you experienced it? So you have to call up the senior most guy and tell him, sir, can you please escalate this? And 10 calls goes up, then P4 ticket becomes a P1. And the P1 doesn't stay P1, immediately it goes to P2. Why? We are given a workaround. So we need to understand, we need to work along with a group of partners and build that ecosystem. I was expecting a question to come from the audience. I'm still expecting, which is, why preparations box is in red in color? Any thoughts? Naidu sir will agree on this. Only during peacetime we do a lot of exercise. During war we actually fight. We just follow. But in peacetime we have to do exercise. We have to do it repeatedly. We have to be on the dot, no slackness. That is when we are actually, executing things to the dot. There is no slackness. Sorry? That's exactly what I put it on this side. No plan is perfect. Expect your plans to fail, and that is correct. It cannot be to whatever extent. I'm not saying it is not zero, then it challenges a lot of, correct. So there will be a variation. There will be surprise element. But the muscle memory what you have developed, that's exactly why you see a lot of people can still do certain things very consistently, very fast, effectively. Why? Because they have developed their muscle memory. So on the execution of the incident response, point number B is something which we have repeatedly and consistently we have been seeing it. Business context. The bracket I've given something. Know your weaknesses. How many of you actually know your weakness? You don't have to tell me what your weaknesses is. In your architecture, what is your weakness? You should be knowing about it. You may not have reported to your management. You may not have communicated to the board, nor to your risk, nor to your compliance, nor to your agencies, but you are supposed to know about it. You need visibility on that. If you don't know what your weaknesses are, the moment something goes wrong, I'm sure each one of you will think, let me go and check up there. Because we know, we were suspecting things will go wrong and starting from that particular place. Okay? Point number C, like the gentleman was saying, identify, isolate, remediate. It's very easy saying that. But the sooner we identify the source and the cause, right, and minimize the blast radius and minimize the impact, is again telling it's very easy. But you, in your IR, you need to have a metric which is going to tell you how soon you were able to identify and how soon you were able to identify the cause, the source and the cause. Are we going to be dependent on SOC? In your IR, one of the scenarios, SOC fails. What will you do? SOC did not get the alert, or they did not see it. Somebody critical who was supposed to come did not come. There could be so many things. That variation is something which we are never prepared. We assume that they will be there, it will happen the same way that we wanted it to happen. Communicate. That's a most important thing we don't, we don't communicate at the right time, to the right people. Have a communication strategy. To whom you will respond to, like to a certain, within 6 hours you are supposed to report it, right? So who will communicate that? Does anyone know about it? Do we have a template? Are we going to sit and type something at that point in time? Small things make a lot of difference because that's the comfort zone you give to the management, and that's a confidence the management will get on you by being more proactive. Last one, ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. What we think is, we think that if we ask for help, the perception is, okay, what will the other guy think about me? So whenever you're in need, whenever you're having a situation, you can ask for help. You can ask anyone, and also ask CXO sideways also. Okay? This is the overall points which I wanted to share, and I'm inviting Prabhakar to come on the stage to share his experience on an actual incident that they faced and what they did and how they bounced back. Thank you so much, Prabhakar.
Thank you, Bala. This was a very, very useful session. I think if I would have attended your session before, we could have avoided the compromise. I think there's a lot of takeaways for me from Bala's session. So I don't know if we followed all the points which you had in the green box, but we definitely followed two things. One is communicate and ask for help. So I think we did that, and that had actually helped us. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Prabhakar. I work for a ITAS organization. We work for a lot of global publishers. We are based out of Chennai. So I wanted to share my personal experience. So we had a compromise in our office in 2022 July, and I wanted to share that, so that a lot of people can get benefited out of it. So what happened? So early in the morning, like 2 o'clock, somebody from my IT team called me and said, I was also managing IT infrastructure at that point in time. So they said all the servers, we run all virtual servers. So all the servers were being powered down. So I thought it would be a power issue, and I requested the team to power on all the servers. And they were doing that. And in the process, they were able to power on few servers were not powering on. And again, I got a call that, it was not powering on. So I thought that could be some corruption issue because of abrupt power shutdown. So go ahead and restore from backup. And later on, while they were in the process, they identified it as a compromise, and they saw the ransomware note. Usually, what happens is the ransomware, the bad actors, they usually encrypt the files, like the file servers or the data. This time what happened was they powered down all my virtual machines. The moment it is powered down, it is a flat file, .vmdk, it's a flat file, right? They encrypted the virtual machines. So once the files is encrypted, there's no way I could power on, right? Without servers, I can't do business. So that's what happened. And we took almost 4 hours to identify that it was a potential compromise. So to cut short, so we immediately invoked our incident response. So we partnered with a third-party agent. We installed our EDR services. We did a lot of activities to recover from that, okay? But the point which I wanted to make is there are a lot of takeaways, learnings from that. I would like to share one experience which has turned upside down, which had given me a lot of positive thinking on the day of the compromise. 6 o'clock, we identified that it was a compromise. The moment I called my CEO and said, so we had a situation, so I wanted to hold a meeting with all the key stakeholders. So I had joined the call earlier, and one of my AVP joined, and he said, Prabhakar, you are looking a little worried. He said, don't worry, whatever happens, so we are at the back of you, we will support you, don't worry, we will recover from this. That made a lot of difference, that made a huge difference for us. If only he has questioned me, Prabhakar, you have done something wrong, so what happened to your business, how do I communicate to my customers, then it would have been very, very difficult for me to handle that situation, right? So the moment he gave a very positive note, so I was finding it very, very comfortable. So I said, okay, and throughout the entire recovery process, the entire management team was very, very supportive. And I also request everybody to follow the same thing. During a compromise, don't even question any of your team members. Okay, so we can definitely retrospect. We'll have a lot of time to see what went wrong, how to correct ourselves. But during that process, don't even question or put pressure on the security people. The biggest thing is management gave a lot of confidence and support. We implement a lot of security controls and compliance and all that. The other thing is we took almost 7 days to completely recover from that incident and to back on business. During that 7 days, I was staying in the office for 7 days. So do my CEO also was staying with us. A lot of people were staying with us. So we tend to work for long hours, right? So that is also not recommended. So we should take rest once in a while. If there is a 2-hour gap, 1-hour gap, just go take rest and come back. If you continue to work long hours, especially during that situation, is also not good. So we are prone to make a lot of mistakes. And we implemented a lot of additional controls like your multi-factor authentication, identity and access management. centralized logging, etc., and all that. That all helped. So all security controls is really good, but operational control, like, operational control. So we had implemented a two-factor. I again wanted to tell another experience. So I wanted to validate whether the two-factor is working or not. So I asked one of my team members to log into the server. He logged into the server. He was asking a OTP. So he was very happy that, it is working. Then I asked one of the other team members to come and log in. So that guy logged in. He was able to log in without an OTP. So these are the operation challenges also we'll have to take. So continuous assessment, please do continuous assessment so that we can continuously improve our process. And to give a summary, like, we took 7 days to completely come out of that incident and to be back online. But it took almost 3 months for us to come back to normalcy. So to come back to the state where we were before that incident. And despite all the new controls what we have implemented, right? Like, we have implemented, you name any technology now, we've got all the budgets have been sanctioned after that incident. You name any technology, we have implemented all the technologies. But despite having all that, we are still hoping that definitely there are a lot of possibilities that we can get compromised once again. Okay, the thought process what we have is, if at all we are getting compromised, we took 7 days to recover, but now we wanted to come back in 1 day. So that is the thought process. So it is inevitable, right? So how many of you do web development here? Okay, we do a lot of web application development. Okay, we all follow OSWAP, right? You have heard about OSWAP. Okay, they tell you how to secure an application. They were compromised last month. Okay, it is inevitable. So anybody in this world can get compromised. So please assume that, you will be compromised and be prepared for that. That's the only way we can fight against these bad actors. And backup, so please focus on your backup. Like nowadays, there are a lot of backups which help you to be immutable, right? 3-2-1. We follow a backup methodology called 3-2-1-0. Minimum 3 copies of critical data in 2 different medias, 1 in offsite, and that should be an immutable copy. Even an administrator, if I wanted to deliberately delete it, it should not allow us to do it. I think these are the key takeaways, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Prabhakar, and we all wish we had management like yours because we support us. They don't treat this as a mistake or anything like that. Thank you so much on that note, and we really hope that you don't have another incident to face, and it should work gracefully for you. So that's it from my side, team, and I'm sure that there were definitely certain learnings. When Prabhakar was saying something, another point across I wanted to share. People would have implemented privileged access management solution when he said administrator can log in and delete it. So some of the privileged access management solutions gives you an option to not run certain commands, even though they are administrators. So even they need to take permission or they need to get a deviation that they're going to do this for this time, and they need to justify it. Even though they're administrators, they cannot run any basic commands where they can delete or format or those kind of things. So that's another piece of note. And with that, I just wanted to share something which, me and Steve were talking yesterday night, and we said, I wanted to take away some kind of a message here. We wanted to communicate something, and we thought, okay, the river does not follow any set path. So does every incident, because you cannot determine that after this is going to happen. It's very, very challenging, and we have experienced it. It has never been the same. It may start the same, but it never, step number 3 and 4, it takes a different course of direction. Thank you so much for being patient and hearing me out. Thank you so much, guys.
Gentlemen, may I request you please stay back, and could I call Mr. Navneetan on stage to honor these gentlemen. And we would like to thank you for such engaging session. That was really fun, and we could see how people were interested in answering the questions. It was lovely. Could I please have a memento for Mr. Prabhakar Ramakrishnan? Thank you so much, sir, for such wonderful content. It was really fun. We were really looking forward to hearing from you. You're hooked completely. Thank you so much, sir.